The Force will be with you, always.
Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hi, this is Nick Anastasiou, story editor on Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Bad Batch. And you are listening to Aggressive Negotiations.
That's right, you've joined Aggressive Negotiations, the Star Wars podcast trolling out along the forbidden passages of the unknown regions and coming back with pure gold-pressed gold-pressed Latinum. That's wrong franchise. Anyway, I'm Jedi Master John Mills, here to troll these unknown regions with you. And joining us, joining us is Jedi Master Matthew Rushing. Matt, what are your tips for keeping the mind occupied on the long stretches in the unknown regions?
Hollows of sliced noodles in the band, just that on repeat. That's really what it is.
Well, goodness knows Lapti Neck is a great workout song, and that's why we're so fit as we journey across the stars.
It's the Star Wars jazzercise, my friend.
It truly is. It truly is. Now, Jedi Rocks is always good when you want to go out for a quick jog, but nothing's going to beat Lapti Neck. And what else can't be beat is if you go over to Apple Podcasts and drop us a star rating and review, we'd love it. We'd appreciate it. It would mean the world to us because we do this for the love of the game. So we very much appreciate if you love what we're doing. So Matt, another one of those silly topics that enters my brain while I happen to see a GIF of Count Dooku while I'm looking up for Dooku gifts to respond to somebody with, which as a Star Wars fan, we are wont to do. And I came across one of him captive from the Clone Wars series with those glowy handcuffs that Obi-Wan we saw on Attack of the Clones when he was held captive, that energy field. So I was thinking about it and I was just like, how do these things work? We all know the Force is in all living things. We know that the Force this, the Force that. But if the Force is about focus and mind, how do these glowy cuffs work to keep a Jedi or a Sith or other Force user neutralized?
That's a great question. And in the expanded universe, we had the Asilumari, or whatever they're called, right? And they created a Force bubble. In the Dungeons and Dragons movie, just rewatched that with Chris Pine. There are
Honor Among Thieves.
Yeah,
it's a surprisingly delightful movie.
Delightful.
It really is
very, very good. But one of the things that's really interesting about that movie is they can put these cuffs on you that can hamper magical ability, which seems akin to this idea of hampering Force ability.
Yeah.
And so the question then becomes, what type of Force blocks the Force?
Right.
In the Star Wars galaxy. And like you said, the Force being in all living things, that is a great question as to why, Obi-Wan being floating there, right? What in the world causes this bubble of him not being able to get himself out?
Yeah.
I'd never thought about that, but now that you bring it up, I'm like, that is a really good question.
See, in Attack of the Clones, I can almost say Obi-Wan knows there's nowhere to go. Like his ship's been destroyed.
It's true.
He's underground at a droid making facility surrounded by Trade Federation ships everywhere and Techno Union Army and all of this stuff where it's like, I could easily see it as like, okay, they have it. It's making it more difficult for him, but it's not neutralizing him because he's like, where am I going to go? Right? I got to hang here. But then, as you're going through, I want to pitch this idea to you because I'm not naturally inclined to go the Isalamiri type route where it's like there's anti-Force that's put out there. It doesn't feel right to me.
Right.
What if it's more a thing of it delivers some sort of low-level pain, not torture pain, but some sort of low-level pain that prevents the Force user from concentrating. So if they try to go into a trance, it's one of those things where they just can't focus. because it's like irregular little pinpricks that go through their system. So they can't keep their mind on the task at hand.
See, I think that you're onto something there. The idea that that field helps disrupt the flow of the force through them in that way makes complete sense. Because I do agree with you. The idea that anything kind of mechanical could block the force, or even that there would be something physical, like like some kind of being. Now, the interesting part about this, though, and this kind of ties into our previous episode that we were talking about all the crazy stuff with the other universe and the way in which Dathmiri magic works, it does kind of make me think that the idea of the Asilumeri isn't all that off, though. When I think about the fact that we've got a whole other galaxy, we've got we've got Dathmiri magic that is somewhat tied to the Force and yet different at the same time. It almost makes me wonder even if those type of binders involve something along those lines. Because Dathmiri magic does have the ability to interact with Force users in kind of an interesting way. And so it's probably not the case, but
yeah, but
something
I mean,
along those lines would make sense to me, right?
Let's explore it. Like it would have to be something where it's like it's so prohibitively expensive to make, like it's a difficult sort of thing to get a hold of. So like, your average person on 1313 doesn't have access to these sorts of things. But it's an interesting possibility that there would be some sort of alloy or energy that would, every force has an equal and opposite force sort of thing, where it's like you're able to build something that has some sort of reactant that notices a buildup of energy, because when you focus the force, you're focusing energy and it picks up on that and it creates like a counter energy or something. I'm still not necessarily in love with that idea. I sort of hold on to that first one that I have, but it is something where I think what it gets me back to is like, I'm always glad that Star Wars is not Star Trek, because Star Trek would have invented a bunch of technobabble to explain it.
Yeah.
Where it would have been like, oh, well, the anti-forcetrons in the reverse polarity stabilizer cuffs. I'm like, Instead, it's like, we're going to give it a blue glow. And then your brain is going to sit there and say like, yeah, it just works on Force users differently. Like, okay, I could see that. I mean, I can even see slapping those things on people who weren't Force users just in case. But that would get back to the prohibitively expensive aspect of it, where it's like you can't just use these cuffs on everybody because they're just too difficult to manufacture or something like, sort of like, because you have Maul's Mandalorian holding bin from The Phantom Apprentice, where it's like that neutralized him. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, was it a specific type of metal alloy? Is it possible that there's something about Beskar that like screws with them or something like that? The only thing that I give credence for the Salamiri and other stuff is like the Force is supposed to be part of nature, and that means that nature is balance, and so there will always be something that can counterbalance the ability to use the Force. So I don't know. Maybe those sorts of things can get me there. I don't know.
Well, there's always the idea, right, of you think of the Superman idea, and he can't see through lead.
Yeah.
So something about the composition of lead does not allow his X-ray vision to pierce it. And the idea of, him being allergic to radioactive bits of his home planet. Right. And so I think that you are onto something when you bring up the idea that everything in nature does have something to which there is a counterbalance to it. You even think of lightsabers can cut through anything but Beskar.
Or whatever the hell the electric field is on the Magna Guard's staves. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And so there are ways to counteract the benefits of a Jedi, and yet they do seem to be either cost prohibitive or few and far between. And, I think you also get to the idea that many people just really haven't run into enough Jedi to have enough experience to know what works. Something like the Mandalorians, it seems as though, in the distant past in the Star Wars universe, there was enough of a conflict between the two for the Mandalorians to specifically research and figure out how to counterbalance Jedi.
Yeah.
But by the time we get to the prequel era, there has been very little challenge to the Jedi, and their numbers mean that those in the galaxy, they may or may not ever see a Jedi at all, ever, and feel more as though they're fairy tales or maybe even myths on their world, because there might not really be a need for a Jedi to ever visit their world in the first place. And so, where these type of technologies come, it does make sense that they are kind of just few and far between.
I've got a thought here, and maybe this supports something about the energy field or advancement of technology. Who knows? But in Return of the Jedi, I mean, obviously, look, I'm not dumb. I know when they're filming Return of the Jedi back in the 80s, adding a blue glow to Luke's binders when he goes up to see the Emperor is a very different thing than, oh, I have a computer that can do that. Like I'm not diminishing any current effects person who's using computers. I'm just saying, that it's a completely different thing. So obviously they're not going to put the blue glow on them. So I have a multifaceted couple of questions here for you. All right, so bear with me. One, do you think that if he took another pass at another special edition of all of the movies, Lucas would add the blue glow to Luke's binders? Two, do you think that Luke's binders not having a blue glow is a headcanon moment where we can say, well, they figured out a way to do it without the blue glow showing? And three, do you think that if there had been that blue glow, it would prevent another Force user from undoing the binder on Luke? And therefore, it could be more impressive for the Emperor to disengage it because he's so powerful that there is no limit on him. So that's my three questions in a row having to do with Luke's binders.
Well, my first answer is, George, more special editions. More
it
special
would happen.
editions. Give us all the special editions.
It would happen. You know full well it would happen. And I'm not one who drags the special editions. We had our conversation about the special editions. I'm just saying, right. I'm surprised it didn't occur somewhere along the way.
But I would say that I don't believe that his binders that he's wearing are actually special in any way. I believe they're just normal binders. And the reason that Luke, where's he going to go?
Yes.
This is the point. This is the plan. Was him because these binders look exactly or feel similar to the binders that we see in Star Wars. They do. With
they're
Chewie.
Probably the same prop,
and so probably the same prop. So therefore, I don't think that there's really a need for a special edition on that front because this was never about the binders. Right. It was always just about the fact that the Emperor knew Luke needed to be there, and Luke knew Luke needed to be there, and Vader knew Luke needed to be there. So everybody knows Luke needs to be there because they all know the reason he's really there. So this is really just subterfuge in that sense of like everybody's playing their part in this big farce. And so now, if they were these type of energy binders, would that mean that Palpatine could undo them, or would they actually need to be undone by some sort of like special key,
right,
or something? That's a good question.
I'm gonna say no. Actually, I just realized Episode 3 gives us the answer to that question. So it's a pointless exercise.
Well, he's also there on purpose.
No, I know,
so,
but Palpatine is sitting there with the blue glow blind. Boy, I tripped up on that one. With the binders have the blue glow in episode 3 when Dooku / Grievous has him captive, and they release the binders from him with a wave of the hand. Anakin does.
Oh,
and so
right.
therefore,
right. There you go.
No, the blue glow does not prevent another Force user from hitting them. And wow, could we retroactively say that was a tell right there that Palpatine was a Force user? He was laying a hint out there to see if somebody noticed that they used Force binders on him.
I like this. That's it's really good.
Waiting to see if Anakin's smart enough to pick up on it.
Yeah, well, and it also, like you said too earlier, what if this was just one of those places where, this was the highest security measure you could give, so you knew it would hold a Jedi, and so therefore you put Palpatine there because you don't want him escaping anyway.
True.
Right? And so, yeah, so that could be a part of the reasoning behind that as well, but... No, I mean, you're right. Absolutely. Jedi do have the ability, it seems, to affect those binders outside of themselves, but they can't do it while in the binders. And so I think it really does come back to, and I think the idea that the binders create a disruption in maybe the neurochemical makeup of a Jedi with pain and maybe something else might be the best answer to this question and make the most sense because you aren't able to focus. Because your focus determines your reality, right? That's what we hear from Qui-Gon Jinn. And it does take focus for Jedi to be able to use telekinesis. We see that even in Attack of the Clones as an example, right? The massive column falls, and Obi-Wan and Anakin would die if Yoda didn't turn his full attention to making sure that this massive thing doesn't land on them, and it allows Dooku to escape. And so I think that is to me, that's the answer in the end. We come full circle, and that's where it makes most sense.
So it took us more than 400 episodes, but we did, I think, finally answer definitively the blue glow binders, their role, what they do, how they function. Once again, another successful journey here on Aggressive Negotiations, where we have answered the deep burning questions. And Matt, the other deep burning question that so many people have is, how can they reach you online to talk about the tongue twister of saying blue glow binders 10 times fast?
Yes. I would love to see the videos of people trying to do that. You can hit me up on social media under the name MattRushing02. Here on the network, you'll find me doing Owl Post, a show about every single chapter of the Harry Potter series, one chapter at a time. You'll also be able to find me over on the TFM network doing a bunch of shows. One is called the 602 Club, where we're talking about all of the franchises we love outside of the Star Trek fandom. You can also find me doing a bunch of Star Trek talk with my good friend Chris Jones, talking about a lot of the different Star Trek shows as we've hit their anniversaries, or like Saddle Up or Picard. So check all of those out. But John, if people are just wanting to find a way to lock you into some blue glow binders, where can people find you?
See, you're having trouble saying it too. This is amazing that we have now created a canonical name that will make it impossible for people to put us in these restraints because it's so difficult to say blue glow binders. Wow.
So why don't we just call them the BBBs?
Oh, BGB. BG. Oh my
BGBs,
gosh.
yeah.
Which explains why when the Bee Gees play,
The Bee Gees.
I'm completely incapacitated.
Yeah, exactly.
It causes my brain to shut down.
100%.
My
There
gosh.
you go.
The
That's
Bee
why.
Gees are
Yep.
now canonically Jedi inhibitor music, actually. So we should go back and have a special edition where Jive Talkin' is playing when Dooku goes in to talk to Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones. Book it. Somebody put that together. I'm far too lazy to do that and put it on YouTube. But I know somebody out there can do it. Find me as Castle Junkie out there in the wild space of the internet. Find me here on the network, co-hosting a show called House Lights with Tristan Riddell and Darren Moser, where we look at the work of directors and have a lot of fun doing so. But Matt, I found out actually that they installed a lock on my quarters using the Blue Glow device. So I'm going to need your help to release it back at the temple. So I think it's time to close these negotiations.
John, negotiations are closed.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.